Hello and welcome to another edition of the FBB Super Show. I am your host, Walter Waddell, aka Dub Deuce 85, coming to you live on the FTN network. As always, a clean shaven host, of course. We had to pay the bills yesterday. We did shave the beard live on air. We rocked the mustache for a little bit. The family was a tad, weirded out by it, so the mustache had to go as well. So, alas, we are going to regrow the beard. The Final Four is set. You probably think, man, a few days reprieve. You know, the NIT semifinals is this week. Okay, we'll take a couple of days off and regroup and get ready for some Final Four. Well, that is incorrect. No, sir, no, ma'am. The Crown Tournament, the inaugural Crown Tournament, is kicking off today. First round action, 4 games today, 4 games tomorrow. Pretty solid chance that tomorrow's slate has the 4 Crown games and 2 NIT games. Pretty fun stuff. So we have day basketball here. First game kicks off at 12 noon PST, and we have games throughout. This is taking place, of course, in Las Vegas. So we have games at 12, 2:30, 5:30, and 8. If you're on the East Coast, 11 p.m. Who could not be excited about all-day basketball? Now, the Crown Tournament is going to be a huge edge for news. I want to get this out there right away. There are teams with injuries, of course, but also a ton of transfer portal stuff. The transfer portal opened just, a week ago. There's over 1,700 names already. There is some court stuff going on between the NCAA and others, and there might be some possible changes to the way that NIL is done. So we're seeing guys commit a lot faster. You're going to see a surplus before that court date, before that happens, and guys are going to commit to other teams. So this is how it's going to work. Some players, like ASU's Josen Sanin, who has transferred already and has committed to St. John's, he will not be playing for ASU. He's already with another program, so he will not be playing, obviously, right? So that we know. There are other players such as Utah's Keanu Dawes, who we love. He's awesome, who is in the portal, but he's going to play. So that is going to trip some people up. DraftKings has gone ahead and marked some players out, and that is fine. That was just going to lead to more of an edge. And I think people, when they're playing today, they're going to miss some of that information. Utah is a big one. So is Butler. Finley Bizjack is going to play today. Now, the line has moved a lot in that game because I have it on good authority that there's going to be a very important player for Butler out that hasn't been announced yet. So you're just basically going to have to take this game by game and try to stick to starters where possible or where news is missing, okay? Motivations might be a factor, but I think it's less of a problem like the NIT is, because this Crown Tournament will give players NIL money, will give programs NIL money, and it is a very big deal. So this is going to be a fun one. There's nothing better. One of my favorites of the season have been Sunday slates because it's all day. People tend to miss news. Like, this is going to be very, very good. So I'm excited for this. Wanted to get a show out. I do have content. I have projections. I have all kinds of stuff out for this. But wanted to hop on the air here and do a breakdown here for about 15 to 20 minutes and get you guys prepared for that first game and beyond. All right. So let's get into this. Let's pop up some projections here. By the way, please, if you're tuning in live, looks like there's a lot of you starting to trickle in. Please hit that like button. It is so helpful. Over on Twitter, if you repost, retweet, share, comments, questions, concerns, attaboys, anything at all, is so very helpful. So please help us out here on the FTN network and drop us a like and a follow, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss when we go live, whether that's in the morning, night, afternoon. You want to be able to tune in whenever we are live. So appreciate that very much for those of you who have continued to do so. All right, let's pull it up here. All right. Alex, I can always count on you to jump in. He says, DK underestimated our interest in the Crown. So I talked to a rep over the weekend and asked before the Elite Eight if they were going to do a 2-day slate for the Elite Eight. Was shot down quickly. They used to do it all the time. They said they don't anymore. I can't recall if they did it last year. but whatever. Anyways, at the same time, I said, what about the crown? Will you guys have DFS for that? And it was confirmed that we'd have crown and NIT action. So yeah, the contests were small, mega small. They're already filling up. Hopefully tomorrow they make them a little bit bigger. But yeah, I mean, we are a community of DGens out there, and you give us any and all collegiate basketball, we're going to fill it up. I keep trying to get them to do TBT DFS again like they did during COVID. They haven't, but remember, it filled up all the time. Like there is a hunger inside of us for all of this basketball action, and they need to give it to us. So this will be a fun one, though. My man Jason says, what's up? Jones and Pettiford couldn't get us free throws late yesterday. Yeah, Pettiford, like, yeah, man. Cohen Carr barely playing. I don't know. Tom Izzo's great, but what the hell? Todd Pettiford going back to barely playing the end of the game. That was awful. Like, props definitely took it in the shorts yesterday. We got the Chaney Johnson props through, which were nice. But lost those two with Carr and Pettiford, and then took it in the shorts with Chaz Lanier. Chaz had 5 points at halftime for Tennessee, and like at the 9-minute mark, he had 7, and he finishes with 17 to beat his under 16.5. That one hurt. They kept fouling him while shooting threes too. Very, very hurtful. But that's okay. We're going to bounce back here. And yeah, they did definitely struggle. Denver Jones had a horrible game. Trey Holloman had a horrible game. Like, all that stuff, man, was terrible. But appreciate you stopping in here, Jason. Let's get into the crown. This is going to be an absolute fun tournament. I'm super jazzed for it. All right. First game on the docket here, Utah versus Butler. Now, this one opened at about -2, 2.5 for Butler. It has since switched over. It's now Utah -2.5. There's a total of 157.5. And that's because I think Vegas and a lot of people assumed, hey, with all these transfer portals Utah has, transfers they have, they're not going to have their full roster, but they are. Looking at the various workout videos they have from Vegas, I did account for most players there. I didn't see Lawson Lovering, but I'm pretty sure he's there. And the only confirmed player out for them is Caleb Lohner, and that's because he's working on NFL draft prep, as he is going to try to be a tight end. You know, the always versatile, timeless college basketball player to tight end route he's going to go. So they don't have him. But everyone else, despite being in the portal, should be available. And, of course, DK has preemptively taken a few players to 3K that they thought would be out. Lawson Lovering being one of them, Jake Wallen being another. Both are expected to play. On the Butler side, Finley Bizjack is going to play, and then he's expected to transfer out. The player that's rumored to be out for Butler, and which is causing this just gigantic, from -2 to +2.5 movement, is Jameel Telfort. He does still have props up, but Butler discords and message boards and other stuff that I've gotten from people seems to indicate that Jameel Telfort will not be available for Butler today, and that is causing this massive shift. So as of now, I have Jameel Telfort projected out, because I do believe those rumors from what I've seen, and people with a little more intimate knowledge of the Butler program have even gone as far as to say he didn't even travel with the team. So that's what I'm going to operate under with Jameel Telfort being out. So that's a big, kind of bit of news there early on. Luckily, this is the first game on the slate. I kind of wish it was like the second or third, so it would trip people up. So we're all going to have this info before the slate locks. Starting with the Utah side, you can see Lawson Lovering and Jake Wallen at 3K. All they got to do is play about 20 minutes, if that, to just sky over. We've got Wallen at over 6x. Lovering just right behind him at nearly 6x. So both of those are kind of gimme plays, assuming they start. If they don't start, it's a little antsy, but still, if they're there, dressed and ready to go, you got to play them, right? Keanu Dawes, he is just like future superstar written all over him. Ezra Azor is dealing with an injury he had during the Utah practice and warm-ups and all that from yesterday and the weekend. He was there, fully dressed and dunking even. So I do expect him to play. Keanu Dawes did start for him in that last game of the season. Whether Dawes starts or not, I'm still pretty much angling towards using him. They could do the thing like, oh, you're hitting the portal, we're not going to give you too many minutes. Like that's maybe if they want to be petty. But if Dawes plays, 30 minutes and they just unleash him, he's going to break the slate. He's the best play. He's the highest upside player on this slate. He's a superstar. He's going to have his pick of any program that he wants in the country. But we'll see if he ends up starting or not. He's 7-2, and if he doesn't start, it's definitely going to be a bit of a decision. But he's there and available and planning to play. As far as anybody else, Gabe Madsen, I'm not really interested in at 7'6". Mike, the Mongolian Mike, if you will, Mike Stravagems, he's okay at 5'7". But for the main part here, we're just stacking those 3K options from Utah. Now on Butler, without Telfort, that's going to be a big boost in minutes and usage to Pierre Brooks, who already plays a lot, but he's going to absorb a lot of those shots. And then you can see on your screen here, Colby King, who's priced at 3-4, likely steps into the starting lineup and plays well over 20 minutes. And he projects at nearly 6x. If they decide to give Andre Screen some big minutes here, we know he's a high fantasy point per minute player. He has great rates across the board. He's going to be a big play at only 5.2. Love Pierre Brooks. There's not as many pay-ups on this slate, but I think Brooks at 7K, he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. And then guys like Finley Bizjak, Patrick McCaffrey, they're just okay options. And then you have cheapies in min price Landon Moore and 4-7 Bowden Kapke, who are both have to play a lot of minutes here for Butler. They're a little bit short-handed. So we're going to come away from this first game with at least 3 players, but we may end up having half our lineup in this game. That is a real thing that should probably happen here, especially if Colby King starts. Colby King, Ezra Azor, Jake Wallen, Lawson Lovering, and then the decision of, I don't want to go with Pierre Brooks, which I would say is a very strong move. And do you want to play Keanu Dawes, who, if he's starting, Dawes is just a ridiculous player. All right, so that's the breakdown there. My man Brett's here, so let's take down the crown. Let's get it. Next game on the slate here is George Washington versus Boise State. Boise State's an 8.5-point favorite. I don't know. We'll see. Total of 142.5. As of this moment, it doesn't appear to have any major news in terms of guys being out. Boise State has a couple in the portal, but they're lesser used guys, Dylan Anderson and Chris Lockett, so they're not going to affect a whole lot. And then Darren Buchanan for George Washington has hit the portal, but in our community, we have a George Washington superfan. He's very involved with the program. He says Darren Buchanan is planning to play. I don't know that I love the Buchanan play either way because he's pretty expensive at 7.9 and the matchup's not very good. And Boise State, they were right on the cusp. They just barely missed the tournament. So they might be having a point to prove here. Well, I think it'll be competitive. I do wonder how much juice George Washington will have. And Buchanan, coming off the bench at 7.9 like he has been doing, that's just a little bit too steep for me at this moment. So the George Washington play we want to consider is Rafael Castro. Castro has had a really strong season, great rates across the board. He'll have his work cut out for him against a physical Boise State team. But when you look at Castro, of course, he's the Providence transfer. He's had a strong season, top 55 in offensive rating, 22% usage rate, a true shooting percentage in the top 25 range, effective field goal percentage in the top 15 range, a offensive rebounding rate of 13.1%, a defensive rebounding rate of 21.7%, and a block rate of 5.2%. Now, for a center, he only has a foul rate of 2.9, and he has a fouls drawn rate of 5.5. So Castro is definitely a nice look if you're going to go with a George Washington play and you have this salary to kind of sprinkle around with all these cheapies. Castro's a nice anchor point to your lineup. He'd be the one that I trust the most. And then you have guys like Trey Autry, who's only 5K, Christian Jones at 5.5, Jacoy Hutchinson at 4.9, and then Gerald Drumgoole at 6.1. That kind of rounds out the rest of the rotation. And Sean Hansen is there too. They're all pretty cheap. None really stick out. I do think Jacoy Hutchinson and Christian Jones are more interesting than their projections would stay. If you're running multiple lineups, those are guys I think you could rotate through, but Castro being the main piece here for George Washington. On the Boise State side, Tyson Degenhart at 8.4, top projected play. He's one that if you have that salary and you're looking, to kind of expand out, like you need another top 2 or 3 pay up, he's certainly fine. Alvaro Cardenas is another one that I think is a little bit better than his projections would show at 8K, and those would be the 2 main pieces. I don't want to stack them, but I do want probably one of them. You do have some cheaper options: RJ Keene, Emmanuel Ugbo, the freshman Pearson Carmichael, Omar Stanley. Just depends on how that starting lineup shakes out. Omar Stanley was great last year, the St. John's transfer, but this year his minutes were very sporadic, and even when he starts, sometimes he only plays 10 to 12 minutes. So don't want to get too involved in this game, but definitely has some interest for me in terms of a few plays there. want to try to scoot through this as quickly as possible. Next game on the slate here, we have Nebraska versus Arizona State. Nebraska is a 5.5-point favorite. It's a total of 154.5. Nebraska pretty much has everybody available. The main pieces to watch out here, Gavin Griffiths is questionable, and Braxton Mia. Now, Raleigh Worcester is out. He will not be available, so we're not going to have to deal with him. But Bryce Williams gave a pretty impassioned speech to the team, coaching staff, and everybody else, and essentially said, we're playing in the Crown. The mayor gave them the option. Do you want to do this? Do you want to be in the Crown, or do you want to call it a season and move on with the rest of our lives? And they basically said, no, we're going to play. So motivation for Nebraska is high. They ended the season with a whimper, right? Losing a ton of games at the end and playing themselves out of the tournament. This can be a great opportunity for them to make some NIL for themselves in the program, but also to show, like, we're a much better team than people realize, and we can finish our season on a high note instead of a low point. So Bryce Williams, Juwan Gary, both of them are strong options across the board, and that's where I will want to spend my money. Bryce Williams, 9.4, Juwan Gary, 8.6. When you look at the ASU front court without Jaden Quaintance, he is going to be awesome today. His projection's moderate, I agree. It's just because his price is so high. But if they get these 35-plus minute totals that I'm projecting for Bryce and Gary, they should put up huge scores. With Worcester out, I expect Connor Essegian to start. He's 5'8". We've had some good success with him throughout the season. You have Berkey, of course, and then Sam Hoiberg, Aaron Eulis, and Andrew Morgan round out the rest of the rotation. But I'm definitely taking one of Bryce Williams and Juwan Gary today, possibly both. This is a great spot. ASU, they're one of those 4 or 5 teams that I always say we want a mini stack against where possible. So we want to take at least 2 Nebraska players, and in GPP, possibly more. On the ASU side, there will be no Jaden Quaintance. He's still hurt. BJ Freeman's off the team. We know that. And Joseph Sannon will not be there. He is in the portal, but he transferred to St. John's, confirmed. So with another program, you can't play for the other. So they will be even more shorthanded. They essentially have 7 players, 6 of which I believe have a scholarship. Might be 7 if Hurley's kid has one. So it's going to be that typically, short playing all the starters, might have to play some walk-ons at some point. So you see everybody on ASU that has a pulse is going to project extremely well. Adam Miller's expected to play a lot. He's been banged up. He's only 3.8. You have Trevor Best is going to be their main bench piece at 3.2. Bashir Jihad at 7.1. Austin Mason at 6.8. Sean Phillips at 6.7. Those are the 3 pieces that are kind of like one of those being a lineup staple. Like they have pretty safe floors at this point. Gotta like Amir Ali. He has fantastic fantasy point per minute numbers, and his rates are solid, and he's going to take a ton of shots without Sannon. I know a lot of people are going to look to Mason because he blew up without, Miller and some others. But remember, there's a lot of games where Arizona State had 6 or 7 guys, and Mason was just kind of like there. He wasn't putting up these huge numbers. So I'm a little bit concerned about going all in on a chalkier Austin Mason, but it does make sense, right? Instead, I want to go really heavy on Amir Ali, especially if he starts as I expect him to. You see, in 3 spot starts to end late February, early March, he against BYU, 39 minutes as a starter. He had 8.6 rebounds, 2 assists. 31 minutes as a starter against Utah, 5.6 rebounds, and then 34 minutes against Texas Tech as a starter, 3 points, 4 rebounds. All tough opponents there. He didn't put up the best numbers, but I'm telling you, this guy is going to have a good game today. He did have off the bench against Arizona in 39 minutes, a 13.5 rebound, 1 assist game, which was very solid. And in these, he's just chucking threes. He shot no less than 2 threes in any of his in only one of his last 6 games. So he's a moderate price, but I think he's going to really play well here. And I think he's the type of player that's going to absorb that Joseph Sannon role. And he does have the opportunity for some peripherals. You see, we have him just under 12 points, just under 6 rebounds, right around an assist and a half, puts him close to a 4.3x number. I do like Ali a lot here. I don't know if I want to get involved with stacking too much ASU. We do have some lineup flexibility as he's guard forward eligible, but he's my preferred Sun Devils play. But keep in mind, Mason is going to be very heavy. This slate doesn't have much double ups. The double ups they put up weren't featured. They're small. So it's basically just like playing for upside anyways. So Ali's definitely a guy that you can roll in your quote unquote main lineup. All right, last game on the slate here, Georgetown versus Washington State. This one here is a 159.5 total, and Georgetown is a 3.5-point favorite. I like the Hoyas to cover, win, all of that stuff. Not really feeling too good about the Cougars right now. Right now, the injury designations are as follows. Caleb Williams still questionable with his injury. We know Thomas Sorber is out, and then Drew Fielder is questionable. He hit the portal, but has not found a program yet, but I'm having trouble getting some definitive answers there from the Georgetown media. This is the last game on the slate, so we may not know for a while, but just keep that in mind. Washington State side, Cedric Coward out long-term. We know that. Marcus Wilson is out. And then Isaiah Watts, Slick Watts, family member there, son, he is going to be out, confirmed. He hit the portal. He is not with another program yet, but he has stated he will not play in this Crown tournament. So the Cougars have already been pretty shorthanded anyways, and they're going to be even more so. I do have Rehard's Favors as the projected starter over Watts. We'll see if that ends up coming to fruition. He is a decent enough value piece. It's just with the Utah and Butler guys, we don't really need value on this slate, so it's not like we're going to have to go out and play him. But Favors did play 23 minutes in their last game, which was a WCC tournament loss, 86-75 to San Fran. He played, considerable minutes, 23-24. So I would expect him to start and kind of absorb that. But it's about 30 to 31 minutes for Watts to go around to others. Favors, Thomas Thraston, Parker Garrett, Andy Okafor, maybe Case Why Not. Like, these guys are all probably going to see some boosted minutes. And when you look at the Cougars, we have some intriguing looks here. Favors at 3.7, definitely. Thraston at 3.9. Now, Nate Calmey's also hit the portal, but he's not confirmed out. I have a strange suspicion that he will play. If he does, I want to use him. He's going to chuck a ton. He's going to absolutely fire everything he can. It'll take him getting benched for him not to shoot the rock. Obviously, if he doesn't go, that makes me even more interested in Favors, Thraston, Garrett's, Why Not, all those guys. And then you have the Dane Eric strips, Ethan Price, foul machines. Tread carefully there. The nice thing is, without Sorber, we discovered that DVP late. Targeting front court options against Georgetown had been money, right? We had some very good success there late. So we definitely don't want to write off Eric Strip and Price, but because one of them is going to probably break it. Just have to avoid those fouls. So it's a coin flip. They're both priced kind of similar. Eric Strip's 6K, so he's cheaper. You can get there. Price at 7.3. Obviously, you worry about both, though, when it comes to fouls. But there's not a front court option on Georgetown right now that scares me. As far as Georgetown goes, Micah Peavy, I expect him to play the entire game, most of it, once again. Malik Mack, Jaden Epps, both playing. Curtis Williams should get a sizable boost, especially if Fielder can't go. I would suspect he'd be the starter. He's priced at only 4.2. And then Jordan Burks is going to have to play most of the game as well, priced at 5.9. And then we'll probably get some of these guys like Kayvon Moretti, Drew McKenna, Austin Montgomery, like these types that are going to have to get some minutes. Depending on the Fielder designation status and how much guys like Epps, Mack are going to play, I think Kayvon Moretti might be the sneakiest value on the slate, somebody that could potentially play 30-plus minutes. And he's played some decent minutes in the past and looked pretty good when he's played. So I'm kind of interested in him. But that'll be one we'll have to monitor and see and get that Fielder status and what those starting lineups are. We may not need him either by the end of it, just to be ready for some moves. But overall, you can play essentially who you want because of that Utah/Butler value. So the core I have right now, Amir Ali, I think he's going to kind of be my posh play here. Just feel like he's gonna absorb those usage, that shots, all that opportunity from Sandin. Bryce Williams is my top pay up. Feel extremely good about him. I know he can go long stretches without scoring. That's a problem, obviously, but the way he is ready and has Nebraska ready for this tournament makes me feel pretty good about him and the Cornhuskers in general. And then I did put here at least two of Jake Wallen, Lawson Lovering, Keanu Dawes. Obviously Wallen and Lovering, we're just going to play both of those, so that would be the core. Lovering, Wallen, Williams, Ali. Certainly like some Keanu Dawes, but we'll see how starting lineups go. This is going to be absolutely crucial. If you're playing today, it's worth doing it right. monitoring those starting lineups and that news, make sure you're in the FTN CBB DFS Discord, where we will be posting all day long about that news. My best bets for today, Utah straight up. The movement there makes me scary. Just think Utah wins that game outright. So we'll take the money line there. And then Nebraska -5.5. ASU just doesn't have the bodies. They're going to wear down. And I think Nebraska might be a team to make a run in this one. As far as futures go, I do like Nebraska as a potential winner of the inaugural Crown tournament. So we'll be looking his direction. There is some prize picks, some underdogs, some prop betting opportunities here. And looking at it, some of them are a little bit nerve-wracking because they're close. I do like, let's see, let me pull up the points props here. There was one that stuck out immediately. All right, here it is. Ethan Price is at 17.5 points versus Georgetown. Now, I just said it's a great DVP spot for them, but I don't know that Price is going to score like 18 plus. So I do lean towards the under on his 17.5. I think he'll have a nice game. If Calmes doesn't play, obviously that number could go skyrocket. But if Calmes plays, then I'm a little bit more worried about that one. I do lean to the under on Micah Peavy. 22.5 points is a ton. Jaden Epps and Malik Mack are still there. Other guys like Peavy's going to do his thing, but that's just a lot of points for him. And then I do like Bryce Williams. Let's see, points plus assist number. It's 24.5, and his fantasy score is 34.5, but I do like him a lot in all categories. I am leaning into his points plus assist 24.5 over. That's one that I like quite a bit for Bryce Williams. And then one for the rebounds plus points, Juwan Gary, his teammate, over 22.5 points plus rebounds. But for the most part, props, they've done a pretty nice job. They've made a lot of them relatively uncomfortable and not a huge edge, but we'll, of course, find some in the prop market there. But DFS-wise, news-wise, we do have a pretty big edge. So be ready for this one. It's going to be fun. Games on TV all day long, and they're spaced out. If any of the games run into each other, say like the Butler game doesn't end in time, we'll probably not get starters for the next one. But I do believe there's enough time in between that and the night session that we will. DK has been really good about adjusting times, but that was for the NCAA tournament. They haven't done that for the NIT or the CBI, and they probably won't do it for the Crown here. So just be ready following that news. Be in the Discord prior to lock. I'll make sure that you have the news you need. The community will be there. They'll have the news you need. And overall, we'll walk our way to those window trips and green screens. I love it. This is our time. Basketball all week. This Crown tournament will be happening all week long. And the national title game for it takes place one day before the NCAA national title. So that's fun. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Same thing. We'll be running the content show for the 4-game first round slate of the second half of the Crown. And there'll probably be those NIT games wedged in there as well. So fingers crossed for the 6-game slate. That'll do it. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you for your support. We are about 2 hours and some change away from lock. You can find me at DubDeuces85 on all social media platforms. We do still have March 20 for a 20% off discount. If you're into MLB, into NFL, into anything sports related, especially niche sports content like college, like myself, you definitely want to be a part of this FTN community. We will help you pay your bills. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And see you later. I will be on Twitter, of course, tilting whatever's going on. I don't have a beard to offer up to the gods this time, but we'll find a way. And our karma is sky high as well. Let's take it down. Thanks, guys. And always remember,